Hey everyone, Mike Clark here with Heidi Don, who's an estate plan attorney here in the Belleville, O'Fallon area. And just wanted to talk to you a little bit about estate planning in general. So thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. One thing that I've, just from listening to you, that there's so much to consider with estate planning as a whole, whether it be with special needs, whether it be with elder care, whether it just be your normal, wholesome family. There's just so much to consider.
Right. I mean, everybody needs an estate plan, whether, well, my cousins, I used to say, or, or family, when you turn 18, you get a will and powers of attorney from me. But really, your kids are going off to college. It starts then when they turn 18. You can't call the health center at the college to get their medical records, and maybe the kids don't want you to either. But you always have that theory.
You can't get their grades either,
no,
right?
Nope. So having a financial power of attorney and a medical power of attorney on your children when they turn 18 is critical. It makes life a little simpler down the road. And they can have a basic will, and right now they don't have kids, right? So it's going to say everything to my mom and dad. There's nothing wrong with that. There's some kids out there that are amassing assets. They're working 16, 17, 18 years old, and they're saving.
Yeah.
So whether it's simple planning or a young family who just simply, the next step I would say in the evolution of estate planning in that going down the continuum of age would be clients who have their first child, and people say, I don't know who, we can't agree on who's going to be guardian, but you still need simple powers of attorney and a simple will with a guardianship provision, because tragedies do happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So what if we both are killed in a car accident? Who's going to raise our child? And a lot of people will say, we couldn't make the decision, so we never came in. So I see them in their 50s, But that's important to come up with a guardian provision, because you just don't know. And then the next continuum is in the 50s, 60s. You're looking towards retirement. They're sitting down with you. When can we retire? What's this going to look like? But then they've amassed a whole different level of assets. Right?
For sure.
It's usually a little more complicated than a simple IRA or 401k.
Right.
There's some life insurance, there's annuities, there's whatever else.
Rentals, whatever.
Right, a lot of rentals. And so the estate plan continues to morph into something a little bit bigger. And I always tell people, there's the basic estate plan, and then there's the more complicated, which is, I would say the next phase is, you have over $4 million as a couple for Illinois estate tax purposes. Everybody forgets that federal is $11.5 million per person before you have to pay any estate tax, but Illinois is still 4.
Yeah.
And so that's another level of
tax
planning and trust planning.
It's funny that we forget about Illinois might have another way to grab our money, right? With everything going on, but yet many people forget about that Illinois estate tax.
So I feel like that's the other continuum of, estate planning can be very simple and it can be a little more complicated. And you even mentioned the rentals. That's so common with many of my clients that's a form of their retirement, right?
Oh, of course,
it's another bucket that
they can be a great diversifier.
Yes. And so that's important to consider as well in your estate plan. Do you have an LLC? Do you have a home business? So those things kind of morph, and it's okay that it's a little more complicated. But I also say, while I can cover most of the gamut on that, I'm also not, and you know this, I'm not afraid to admit, okay, you have a very complicated business plan, and maybe we can get you with a different level of attorney estate planning that will make sure, because sometimes I think people forget it. I feel like it's excellent to have, not for your basic estate plan, but when you have a complicated business plan and some other factors, it is really something that everybody should consider, is having Mike Clark at the table, have your financial advisor at the table, have your CPA, your accountant at the table, and your attorney. It doesn't have to be every meeting, but one meeting. Let's make sure if we're doing some complicated business or tax planning, you're for sure in on it, because it affects their retirement, their assets, their savings, and they may be tapping those assets.
Yeah.
And the accountant needs to know it at the end of the year, so you don't walk into the accountant's office and they're like, what do you mean you cashed out your 401k? Didn't tell me.
For sure. So I always say everyone has a financial team. The question is, do they communicate, right? So do you and I communicate, or and the CPA, and if it's a business owner, the banker? It's very important for individuals' financial team to be talking to each other, because if they're not, so many things can fall through the cracks, and so many things could be done incorrectly. And we're not, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, and it's just not a good place to be. So one thing I want to remind everyone is that Heidi and myself, we don't know anything about you. Nothing that she's discussed today or I've mentioned should be thought of as a recommendation of any kind for you. If you have any questions about estate planning in any way, shape, or form, please reach out to Heidi. We're going to give a link and her phone number along with this content. So thanks.